Welcome to Best Way to Divorce TV show livestream, Making Peace Our Weapon of Choice. And my guests today are Erika and Englund, Esquire, Support Pay and WeParent, all the way from the USA. Debi Wallbank, Menopausitivity, Debi's from the UK. Again from America, we've got Shared Story with Hayley Lisa, the divorce coach for men. And we're ending with A Healing by Bonnie Kowaliuk from Canada. So a truly international show. And our news stories will include the man who altered his home valuation during divorce. He was jailed. And are Harry and Meghan really getting a divorce? We shall find out here. But first of all, I'm going to introduce my first guest expert here today, who is Erika and Englund. Welcome, Erika.
Welcome. It's such a delight to be here.
Brilliant. And I know we always have a bit of technical fun, don't we, at the beginning of these shows, and I'm so glad that you had a very quick workaround to the complete crashing of your internet supply. So thank you for being able to have some quick thinking there. And we're going to have a couple of things I wanted to cover today. The first being what is probably the most topical thing that's happening in the US of A at the moment. But you said something to me that I just hadn't even thought of, and I suspect a lot of people haven't thought of as a consequence of the overturning of Roe versus Wade.
Yes, Susie, well, it's such a delight to be back. And I know that we've heard worldwide from women on how they feel Roe versus Wade will impact them and their choices and their daughters. But what we're still struggling with is men not seeing this as an issue that impacts them. But there are 3 ways, at least, in which this new legislation and limited reproductive rights is going to drastically impact our male population in the upcoming years. And nobody's really talking about those negative impacts.
So what are they?
Well, first of all, here in the United States, if a child is born to a father, whether the father has wanted and planned for that child or not, the child is obligated to child support. And it's about $160,000 over the average lifestyle of a child, not accounting for inflation. So one large consideration for fathers who do not wish to have children and are now forced to have children through no other option is that those fathers will be obligated to pay child support. And because in the 1990s, the United States shifted to an enforcement model of child support, it means that we not only have very strict laws here, but also incredibly severe penalties for non-payment. So dads who get behind on child support will see a 10% increase month over month in penalties in that amount. Imagine if you could make an investment where you got a guaranteed 10% monthly return. So as this builds up in California, we can take someone's driver's license. We can take away their professional license, like to practice law or to fly an airplane. We can, even in some circumstances, jail parents for non-payment of child support. But probably one of the worst consequences is that dads who are behind on child support are the least likely to form a relationship with their children. So even though you may have a willing and loving dad in the picture, if he got behind on child support, that will impact the child's ability to grow up with a father. So that's one huge area. Forced birth means forced child support. And forced birth also means we're going to be seeing quite a few more teenage fathers.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have heard about the social, educational, and financial impacts that teenage motherhood has on a mother and a child. And that makes sense to us. She would be the one usually having to drop out of school and care for the baby. But we also have studies showing that there are significant negative impacts on teenage fathers. So not only are they about 20% more likely to drop out of high school than their peers, they also have ongoing financial and social ramifications that follow them for life. So they are likely to be behind on every metric of stability from the average non-teenage father. Mm. And this is terrible. It's not just the teenage father, but children who were born to teenage fathers are also likely to be significantly economically, educationally, and socially behind. So if we think about a concept of a forced birth for a mother creating a forced father, we do need to recognize that so many of these fathers are going to be very young teenage men impacted for life, and also their children impacted for life.
And I would dare to suggest, without being political in any way, that a lot of those young men will come from solid Republican families, because I think there's a misapprehension from some of the parents about what kind of people get pregnant. But when it comes to their boys, don't seem to be fairly relaxed about it. And yet, not that they have any real control anyway. I think the social consequences are going to be immense on every level, and quite a leveler as well. But that's not going to be that's not going to help people in that situation. So your support pay app, well, is it that your support pay system that's available to people could be particularly useful? Perhaps you could, for those who don't know about support pay, say a little bit about that.
Support pay is the world's first child support management app. We are the only app that was created on a financial platform with the security of a banking system. So it helps parents pay and receive child support payments, manage all their expenses, and best of all, probably, it helps them never have to talk to each other about money again. As you know, people divorce because they don't communicate well, and they tend to have differences about money. And then they realize once they divorce, if they have children, they have to continue to communicate about money for an average of 12 years, and nobody's thrilled for that. So we've created an app to take that stress off the parents' shoulders and then ensure that they have really simple ways to pay to keep the children supported and have records at the touch of a button whenever they need those for court. So while we are not at all looking forward to the idea of a baby boom in America that will generate so much more support, we certainly know that our programs where we provide support pay for free, for example, teenage parents, any families experiencing violence, that we'll be providing more free support pay subscriptions to those populations in the upcoming period.
And a lot of those new fathers-to-be will they'll be less likely to get into arrears and get themselves in a pickle if they use this app, or their baby mothers use the app. So I think that's a fantastic resource. And before you go, I'd love to talk to you about the workplace. So we were saying earlier that before the show started, I'm thinking in America, it's hard enough to keep good women in particularly significant posts in companies. They have so much going on. They've got menopause, they've got not feeling that they're valued, and now there's going to be a whole load of women who are basically going to get pregnant because try as hard as they might, it just does sometimes happen. But that whole workplace scenario, there's some you did a really interesting study, didn't you? I'd love you to share the details of that.
Yes, we actually support pay partnered with Good Housekeeping Institute, which is one of the longest serving institutions in the world on conducting research to find out what is really happening in the workplace when people are getting divorced. Studies that we have way back from the 90s, which 90s doesn't seem like that long ago, but in reality, that was quite a while ago. Studies that we have from the 90s show there's a pretty significant impact, but it hadn't been updated to show what has happened in the workplace from 90s until now. So something really interesting we found is that when you think of the most stressful things in life, these are the birth of a child, the death of someone in the family, and somebody moving to a new location. Almost all large employers provide a lot of benefits around those services. But almost zero employers provide benefits for the number 2 most stressful event in life, which is divorce. And you may hear, oh, it's the number 2 most stressful life event. But it's really not just the number 2, because even separating from a spouse is number 12 on the list of most stressful life events. Experiencing violence is number 11. We know this happens in at least 1 out of every 5 couples divorcing documented. Becoming a single parent is the number 1 21st most stressful event that can happen to a parent. And losing a job, which happens to 1 out of every 9 people getting divorced, is the 8th most stressful. So we have employees that are going through absolute layers, a multiverse, if you will, of impacts of stress. And then we have employers completely failing to recognize not just the impact on the employee, but that it's costing the employer billions of dollars a year, because it's not just the employee who feels these impacts, but they're also statistically showing to impact all of the coworkers and the employee's manager for an average of 7 years for every divorce that goes through the workplace. So I think if I told you, hey, there's going to be an illness in your workplace and it's going to impact, you're going to lose 1 out of every 9 employees. It will cost you billions of dollars, and it will impact each sick employee plus all their coworkers and their managers for an average of 7 years. Are you interested in providing something to help care for that illness? They would all say yes, right?
And no vaccine required.
No vaccine required. Exactly. And we're hearing, I don't know what's happening in the UK, but in the US, you may have heard of the Great Resignation, where top talent is leaving jobs because people don't feel that their lifestyles are being supported. Yeah. So one of the best ways that employers can keep employees in the Great Resignation, support their top talent, increase the profits, and really ensure that their culture and their lifestyle around work is healthier and happier, is to provide divorce-related benefits, and almost none of them do. So this is something we're going to see trending more and more in the future, and probably one of the newest topics you're going to see on both the divorce and the HR front in the upcoming 5 years.
And I know we're in communication around that in the US, and of course in the UK. For any HR people watching this, I do have about to launch a separating families policy, which you should have, because every HR department should have it, so on every level. But it's the education, isn't it, Erika, of helping them realise that this is actually happening in their workplace right now, and there is so much they can do to alleviate it. Thank you so much, as always, and there's a million other things I'd love to talk to you about, but you're going to have to come back on again in the autumn.
It is always great to see you. May I say congratulations on the Screenplay Award. I'm thrilled for you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you again quite soon. Thanks
so much. See you soon. Always lovely to see Erika. Right, we're going to have a little bit of news. In the summary here, we've got the rise of cryptocurrency and digital assets and family law disputes. The man who altered his home valuation during divorce. Wasn't a good idea. Rupert Murdoch and supermodel Jerry Hall may be headed for divorce. And is there any evidence that Prince Harry and the Duchess Meghan are actually divorcing? Full articles, links to those will be on the blog at on bestwaytodivorce.com, specifically on divorcetvshow.com. But let's start with BBC News. Man who altered home valuation during divorce jailed. Now, if you're ever considering doing this, let this be a warning. A man who misled a court about the true value of his family home during divorce proceedings has been jailed for 7.5 months. Anthony Cook, 50, lowered, it says lowered, I don't think that's, oh, that's right, he did. He lowered 3 estate agent valuations for the property in Peel between March and July 2021. Now, the court had heard he submitted altered emails during the proceedings and relied on them in sworn evidence. Deemster Richard Park said his actions had struck at the heart of the administration of justice. So they took it pretty seriously. Douglas Courthouse heard the couple had split up in January 2020 and Cook wanted to buy his ex-wife's share of the property. He received 3 valuations for the home in Aspen Drive, Ballawattleworth, ranging between £340,000 and £350,000, and altered each to reflect the amount that he could afford to pay. In each case, he had lowered the estimated value of the house by about, listen to this, £5,000. That's all it was. However, his wife rejected being bought out and the judge in the case ruled the house should be sold on the open market. So it was all to no avail. His actions were discovered after Cook's wife requested a copy of one of the emails from the estate agent directly, and the figures did not match the court documents. The discrepancy was reported to police and he was questioned before being charged with committing an act against public justice, which he later pleaded guilty to. His defence advocate said Cook was going through protracted divorce proceedings and was not thinking rationally when the offence was committed. Well, none of us think rationally during divorce, do we? But it doesn't mean you have to be completely stupid. He said his career in the finance industry as a compliance officer was likely to be over as a result of his conviction, adding that if the aim of the deception was to get one over on his ex-wife, it had backfired spectacularly. Deemster Park said that it had undoubtedly been a stressful time for Cook. He had set out to dupe his ex-wife and her lawyers in order to make the house affordable to himself. He said an immediate custodial sentence was unavoidable as the court relied on honest evidence. So he got jail time, lost his career, over £5,000. Surely this was motivated, I think, from wanting to get one over of his ex-wife. It can't be just financially. What do you think? Feel free to mention it in the comments. Metro is talking about Ewan McGregor, who admits divorce was a bomb in his children's life, and a rare comment on his split with Eve Marakis. So Obi-Wan Kenobi star Ewan McGregor has made a rare comment on the breakdown of his marriage to Eve Marakis and the effect it had on their family. Ewan recently married his Fargo co-star Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Ewan revealed a divorce in a family is a bomb going off in everyone's life. My children's lives. Ewan had managed to keep his private life pretty private. However, in a new interview, he's opened up on the effect his marriage breakdown had on his kids' lives after his daughter Clara previously voiced her unhappiness at the split and slammed Mary Elizabeth as a piece of trash on social media. It's not good when the kids get involved like that. Ooh, onto crypto. So I hope not to frighten anyone too much with this one. This is from Lexology. The rise of cryptocurrency and digital assets in family law disputes. So whether you understand how it works or not, cryptocurrency is a growing asset that is disrupting societal traditions. So with the rise of cryptocurrencies and other digital asset ownership comes various implications in family law proceedings, particularly during the process of quantifying and dividing property pools containing these types of assets. Rule 6.01 of the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia, Family Law Rules 2021, provides that each party to a proceeding has a duty to the court and to each other to give a full disclosure of all information relevant to the proceedings in a timely manner. However, typical approaches to obtaining disclosure of cryptocurrency holdings may be ineffective, and instructing experts to value it and other digital assets is still a newly developing practice. Although this is an Australian ruling, this is the same. It's going to be the same issue in the UK or USA. So one significant hurdle for parties who are trying to obtain information about their former partner's cryptocurrency holdings is that there is no bank or regulatory body that can be subpoenaed to provide information or documents about an individual's cryptocurrency assets. So even if you are aware your former partner owns such assets, it may be difficult to prove if they withhold information due to cryptocurrency being held in encrypted wallet systems. Ownership of cryptocurrency is not based on the individual's registered identity, but on encrypted keys. People who hold and spend cryptocurrency can often remain anonymous and enter into transactions by giving out a public key or address, which does not identify them. tantamount to the use of a physical wallet or holding physical cash. Only the owner of the wallet is privy to the value and location of the cryptocurrencies, unless this information is specifically shared by the owner. So please don't start getting any ideas, as this could be a good place to stash your funds before a divorce, because you could still lose it all, as a few people are finding out at the moment. It is important to get on the front foot if you suspect your former partner has an interest in cryptocurrency. When appropriate documents are disclosed evidencing the value of a party's cryptocurrency holdings, it is simply another asset in the balance sheet. However, if parties are not forthcoming with disclosure, the usual issues created by non-disclosure are exacerbated. Statements evidencing the wallet holdings of a party are key documents that can be used to substantiate the value of a person's cryptocurrency. Some exchanges will also produce end-of-year statements. Spending that is inconsistent, so anything they spend that's a little bit inconsistent with the amount of funds in a person's bank account might be indicative of undisclosed cryptocurrency. So it seems very likely that will continue to be a sharp rise in the ownership of digital assets beyond the use of just cryptocurrency. Recently, there has been a significant spike in the number of people owning non-fungible tokens, NFTs. These are one-of-a-kind digital assets that are stored in a blockchain, which is a form of digital ledger operating on a decentralized network. These are endless items that there are endless items that NFTs can represent, including collectibles, art, music, and even tickets to real-world events. There are already billions of dollars worth of NFTs circulating around the world, with many having significant value. Much like cryptocurrency, NFTs will continue to play a larger role in family law disputes in the future. You have been warned. Now, Bachelor Nation's Evan Bass dropped to 6% body fat amid trauma of divorce, where they talk about the divorce diets. But when I was going through hell, he says, working on my body was the one thing in my life I could actually control. Which actually is a good point, because you do need to find things that you feel give you some control. So that's a good tip. I've actually worked out, he says, for over a decade, but never saw the results I wanted. The Bachelorette alum 39 said in this article. He said, diet culture is horrible and the effects on the body, especially mentally, can be quite harmful. Well said. Telling us in the article that he actually ate more food than he used to. So this is the kind of diet we like. He probably didn't eat the diet on this photo that I've added, because I nabbed it off his Insta account, but I imagine that's not probably on his daily list of food. Bass, who has 3 older sons from his first marriage, told the magazine Us, I also work with a life coach who has, perhaps even more than therapy, changed my outlook from impending doom to cautious optimism. Between those two and dealing with the trauma of divorce with my therapist, I was able to get focused and decrease my body fat from 15% to 6% and gain about 20 pounds of muscle. That's a good swap. When I felt like failure was everywhere in my life, I found that changing my physical body for the better was somewhere I could find a win. And it sounds like he did it in a fairly healthy way. USA Today, fact check on, it says, no evidence that Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan are divorcing. What a surprise. The claim has been, it's been going around on the internet, is that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have signed divorce papers. However, there is absolutely no evidence that this has happened. The claim that Prince Harry and his wife Meghan are seeking a divorce is baseless, as independent fact-checking outlets such as PolitiFact and Check Your Fact have also reported. So if you read the claims going around that they're planning divorce, don't believe a word of it. But there is one that looks like it might be true. So, how about this? Fox News billionaire Rupert Murdoch and supermodel Jerry Hall may indeed be heading for divorce. So, the marriage between Fox News billionaire Rupert Murdoch and supermodel Jerry Hall may be on the way to being officially over, according to Celebrity Net Worth. And between Murdoch's $20 billion fortune and the couple's myriad real estate holdings, valued at hundreds of millions of dollars, it's anyone's guess how the couple's assets are going to be divided. Attorney Mark Stevens told the Daily Mail that Hall is likely to have signed a fairly generous prenuptial agreement with Murdoch before their marriage, one that would grant her a generous settlement if and when the two split, but that wouldn't interfere with the line of succession in Murdoch's business. However, it's possible and even likely, according to Stevens, that in lieu of a giant lump sum transfer of tens of millions of dollars from Murdoch to Hall, the former Mrs. Rupert Murdoch would instead receive day-to-day expenses. She's going to have her lifestyle funded without a transfer of funds, he says. We don't know the precise terms of the Murdoch-Hall prenup, but back in 2014, Murdoch's reportedly amicable divorce from his third wife, good thing, we like amicable divorce, Wendy Deng, included both a substantial sum in cash and multiple properties like a New York apartment and a mansion somewhere in China. I think I could divorce amicably for that. So it's possible that Hall will end up with some of their shared property to herself. It should also be noted that when Rupert divorced his first wife in 2013, he's got a few, doesn't he? After 3 decades of marriage, he paid her $1.7 billion. And I'm going to be coming back to talking about how the no-fault divorce laws may stimulate a rise in amicable splits among the wealthy. But first of all, we're going to have a chat with our second expert of our show today, Debi Wallbank. Welcome, Debi, and I'm just trying to unmute you here, but it's being a little bit unfriendly and not wanting to let me do it. I think you have to not touch it, Debi, because that means no one can hear you. It says you've muted yourself, but it's not wanting to bring you in. So let's have one. Oh, we're in. There we go.
There. Can you hear me?
Thank you. I can. Thank you for being here. We're all safe and sound. I can see you and hear you. And Debi, your company's called Menopause. Let me say this: Menopausitivity. Why on earth did you choose? Why did you choose a name that you can't say after you've had a drink? Which sadly, or maybe because I haven't had a drink, I can't say it. I think one glass of wine and I'd be fine with it. So presumably, it's something to do with menopause.
Yeah, and I probably dreamt it up after I'd had a drink, so that might answer that question. But, essentially the name comes from menopause and also positivity, because that's what I'm about. That is my entire ethos now, because menopause really doesn't have to be a bad thing. And I noticed there were a few other similar names going about spelled with the positivity spelled as in the actual word positivity, and I just put a little twist on it. So yeah,
I think it's a very clever name. And menopause is, people are starting to realise what a massive impact it has, not just in the workplace, and certainly in relationships. And the more husbands are aware, I mean, sometimes I literally say to husbands, they describe their insane behaviour of their perception of it, of their soon-to-be ex-wife, and I go, how old are they? And then, do you think it could be anything to do with menopause? And they're like, oh, maybe it is. And it's not even occurred to them. Not that's an excuse for difficult behaviour, but actually, if you don't support someone the right way, you can't blame them if things don't go as smoothly. So what would be your advice to husbands who are either within or without the marriage, realising that their wife's really struggling, or their ex-wife's really struggling with this? Because she might not realise what's even going on, mightn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing around menopause that I have discovered in the last 6 months is that people perceive it to be an age thing, that you have to be, an old woman. You have to be at that part of your life where your life is almost coming to an end physically for menopause to even be considered. But actually, menopause can happen at any time after you have once you have gone through puberty, which sounds crazy.
Yeah,
but
that's scary.
Know women, yeah, it is. And I know women who have hit menopause in their teens, which sounds absolutely insane.
I was listening to Sue, an expert, very recently, and she said, go to your if you go to your doctor and you say, I think I've got menopause symptoms, they're like, oh, you'll get over it. Or they'll say, oh, you're too young. But if you say, I've got a serious estrogen deficiency, Strangely, they may react differently. Can you just say a little bit about what's actually happening? Because to be honest, I know very little about what happened when I went through it on a biological level.
Yeah, of course. And as I say, it can physically happen at any time in your female adult life, which is from puberty onwards, right? Mostly it happens in your 40s, 50s. That's the average. The average age is 51 in the UK. But it's becoming much earlier than that now. And for me personally, I was 39 when I hit perimenopause. And that's a word, when you say it, people go, oh, what's perimenopause? I have no idea. Everybody just thinks it's menopause, but actually there are 3 stages to menopause. And they all begin when your estrogen levels start to drop. So first of all, you hit perimenopause. That's when, your estrogen levels will plateau for most of your adult life, typically. Then maybe say from mid-30s to mid-40s is, from what I'm learning, is now becoming the average. Your estrogen starts to drip away. But not just your estrogen, your progesterone and testosterone, which is a lot of women don't even understand they have testosterone because people see it as the male hormone, but it's absolutely not. So these hormones start to decline. And because they affect pretty much every single cell in your body, you'll start to see problems. You'll see symptoms. And unfortunately, most of these symptoms can be attributed to other things.
Especially if you're going through huge stress in a divorce or family separation, yes. You could put it down to that and not realise you've actually got something physiologically happening to you.
Absolutely, because you probably think you're too young, as I did. And, I do say this a lot, that I used to joke it was menopause, and I don't mean joke because it's funny, because it absolutely isn't funny for most women, but joking in the sense that how could it really be menopause when I wasn't even 40?
So what are the symptoms though that you're talking things start to happen that you might put down something else? What, I know it could be different for everyone, but what kind of can you give us some examples?
Absolutely. How long have you got?
About 2 minutes.
Okay, so I'll run through them rapid fire. There are officially 34 symptoms, but in reality, there are about 60, which is crazy. The most recognized ones are irregular periods, hot flushes, brain fog, aching body, lethargy, loss of libido. Mental health is a massive, massive part of this that is probably the least talked about and the least understood. Mood swings, irritability, itchy skin, literally anything in your body could be attributed to menopause. And I always say that if you have maybe 5 or more of these symptoms all at once, definitely consider it could be menopause, no matter what age you are.
And am I right in a friend of mine was saying that she wasn't happy about the normal HRT, but she asked her GP for the bioavailable one, but she had to ask because it costs a bit more. And some people I know manage to not need that at all, but manage it through diet and stress. Presumably there's a range, there's not just a one-stop fix, and people should be really get some serious advice and think about what's best for them as actions they can take.
Absolutely. And I guess you could say I'm pro HRT if it's suitable for the person. Everybody is different, as you say, and there are so many different brands, different applications, different strengths. There isn't one size fits all. And actually, I think people are scared of HRT because of the old HRT that probably my mum and my nan would have had, which was formulated from pregnant mare's urine.
Ow.
Which is, it sounds horrible. It sounds vile. I wouldn't want it. But we don't even prescribe that in the UK now. It's called Premarin, and it's just not something that we prescribe here. The HRT that you are prescribed in the UK is formulated from the yam.
Oh, so
which
vegan.
Is incredible. Well, just about, yeah. I mean, it depends which type you have. But yes, a lot of the formulations are indeed vegan. But it is so safe now.
Brilliant.
That the benefits of HRT actually far outweigh the risk, because the risks are so small. And, there's always been this fear of, it will give you breast cancer.
Yeah.
It will cause all sorts of other conditions. And that's just not true. That's based on a report that was done many years ago, based on the old style HRT, based on women who were probably beyond menopause anyway, and it was completely inappropriate. So there's this battle going on now to try and re-educate people on HRT being safe and actually having massive future health benefits.
So when I later on, I'll be sending you an email to links where all the places the show is. So I'd love you to put into the comments then some links to more information, and to answer the question in the comments if you can. How does the soon-to-be ex-husband explain to his soon-to-be ex-wife that maybe she should get some help with the menopause? Because that's a tricky one. So if you've got any suggestions of how they could phrase that, that would be amazing.
Do you know what? First of all, if there is a husband or soon-to-be ex-husband that even considers saying that to the woman, I put my hands up, because most men run away.
Yeah. But he'll probably get punched, Debbie. He'll get punched. So you got to. We've got to move on now. But think about it and pop anything in the comments. But yeah, it would be great. So we've got to make it as easy as possible for them to cross that bridge, because it is amazing if they're even thinking about it. Thanks so much, Debbie, and speak to you again soon. So we're going to shoot on now. I just wanted to talk about the no-fault divorce laws may stimulate a rise in amicable splits amongst the wealthy. This is in the Financial Times. A little rant about this. So the no-fault divorce law, it says in the article, that was introduced in England and Wales in April this year, has already captured the attention of wealthy people around the globe. Lawyers say it has triggered thousands of inquiries. London has long been heralded as the divorce capital of the world, and the introduction of the no-fault divorce laws is adding to its desirability, says Catherine Landals, a divorce lawyer in the London office of Withers. Lawyers say attitudes in many societies have changed, and these laws are catching up with the zeitgeist, of course. And in the early 2000s, everyone was focused on the big divorce battles, the bloodier the better, and would go to dinner parties and relate all the juicy details of the breakdown of their own marriages to the other guests, reports the article. Today, in comparison, people are focused on conscious uncoupling, as coined by actress Gwyneth Paltrow and Coldplay musician Chris Martin, when they split up in 2014 after 10 years of marriage. Instead of a dramatic, stressful, acrimonious divorce, such people seek to separate amicably. My question is, and please put your comments in the comments area. So does simply taking away blame, fantastic though that is, actually lead to a kind of more onto the road of peace? It definitely helps, but I suspect it's not going to make a big difference overall with the ongoing dysfunctional divorce systems that we have in the UK and the US. I believe education is key, and my worry is that talking about conscious uncoupling, as beautiful as that is actually potentially detrimental. It's too remote from many people's experience. That doesn't mean, though, that their divorce needs to go toxic. So what do you think? Please put your thoughts in the comments. The article goes on to say that the no-fault rule change brings the UK closer in line with the US, where of the 50 states, 17 allow only no-fault divorces, including New York City, which introduced the law in 2010. In the 33 remaining states, spouses can file for a no-fault divorce or choose to apportion blame for a variety of reasons, which vary from state to state. Acting promptly to start divorce proceedings in the favoured country may be vital, as it is hard to switch to another jurisdiction once the process has started. But Sarah Anticoni, partner at Charles Russell Speechley, says that being the first to file for divorce is not a foolproof way of securing an English hearing. I read that actually part of that in the UK is a consequence of Brexit. It used to be pretty straightforward, but not anymore. She says it's important to bear in mind that when somebody tries to divorce in England, if the other party sees it as a deliberate attempt to obtain more money, then they can challenge it in the English court. So you see, you can still have a nice expensive fight and a good old battle over where to have your no-fault divorce. So in a high-profile case last year, Princess Hayley, the estranged wife of Dubai's ruler, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, secured more than £500 million in what is thought to be the largest post-divorce financial settlement awarded in England and Wales. London's High Court ruled that Sheikh Mohammed pay about £554 million in child maintenance and security costs. According to Elizabeth Dirty, a partner in the private client disputes team at McFarlane's, the case demonstrates the willingness of the English judiciary to use the various tools available to it to ensure adequate protection for the financially weaker party in divorce, even where complex offshore structures are involved. And I have to say that is, I think, a very good thing about our system. But even when you're talking about the weaker party in divorce, even where there's this applies to also to married couples who run a business together, and I found this quite interesting. So in a divorce between Russian billionaire Farhad Akhmedov and his ex-wife Tatiana Akhmedova, the English courts awarded Akhmedova a large share of Akhmedov's fortune in 2016. We've talked about this quite a bit on the show. When he failed to pay, the High Court issued a global freezing order, freezing his assets, including the super yacht Luna, which has now been seized. Good. Lawyers have long sought out the best place for their clients to get divorced, often leading to a situation where each spouse issues a petition in a different jurisdiction. It's called the jurisdiction race. Someone who lives in France but was born in the UK and operates a business out of Germany could potentially file for divorce in any of these jurisdictions. However, there are traps for the unwary. So for most European countries, the criteria for filing for divorce include having a physical presence in that country for some time before the commencement of any proceedings. And also in California as well, at many other places, you really need to check out the rules. While financially weaker parties tend to favour London, the financially stronger half of the couple, often men, prefer to file for divorce in countries where the system of law is still patriarchal, like Spain and France. Even if people file for divorce in one jurisdiction, it doesn't necessarily guarantee the case will be heard there, nor that the financial settlement will be sealed there. Nicola Harris, partner and head of family law at Stevens and Bolton, says it should be noted that if a spouse succeeds in stopping the divorce proceeding in England and Wales, there may still be litigation in this country concerning finances. Says Harris, in certain circumstances, the English court can make further financial orders even where another country has dealt with the divorce, if it is considered that the financial provision made for a spouse by the overseas court is inadequate. That said, there have been an increasing number of cases where High Court judges have been very vocal about costs incurred by warring spouses. We talked about this last month. Warring spouses in financial remedy litigation. So the laws are edging closer to making it possible, a little bit closer, to follow Paltrow and Martin in consciously uncoupling. I think they've got quite a long way to go, quite frankly. But they still require the partners to play their part. Not everybody will. So you can avoid all of this rubbish, of course. Cut a deal in mediation, collaborative law, or if you really, really want to hand over all your power to a judge, use arbitration. You don't need to go through the courts. There should be no need to battle in court. You don't have to be conscious, just not stupid. Now we have our shared story. And Hayley is going to join us. Hello, Hayley.
Hi, Susie.
Fantastic, coming through loud and clear. And Hayley, you are the divorce coach for men, and I bet you've got lots of great stories you could share with us. But we've probably only got room for one or two today, so we might have to get you back on again for more of them. But yes, did any of those previous news stories resonate with you in any way?
Absolutely. And first, let me just say thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you, Hayley. So let me know what's without giving away any details or identifying anyone in any way. For the benefit of, particularly for the men, because you're focusing on helping the men, which is great because they have it is, it's hard for everyone, but I do often really feel for the guys, and it's great that some of them will be reaching out and getting some support, because I think that's quite hard for a lot of men. But what kind of stories can you share that will be that any men watching now who are scared, feeling disempowered or angry about their divorce, what kind of stories can you share that maybe have come through your work with your existing clients?
Well, first, let me just say to all the men watching that there is help out there. Years ago, divorce coaches were not even a thing for men or women. And in the last 10 years, I've seen such growth for divorce coaches for women. But sadly, men were left behind. But I am here to say that I am here. I work with men. I've been doing it for 10 years. And I can get you from A to B, smoothly, and ultimately forming a healthy co-parenting relationship with your former spouse, which to me is the ultimate goal for clients.
And definitely what most men and definitely fathers want. So yes, so perhaps give an example of that to us. Share a story.
Okay, I'd love to. For example, I had a gentleman a few years ago come to me who unfortunately was blindsided by an infidelity. He had been married nearly 16 years, had no clue that his wife was having an affair. When he learned of the affair, he immediately went to a very dark place. He wanted to sabotage her car. He wanted to get her fired at a very well-known corporation. And fortunately, he reached out to me before acting on those urges. So when we met, I immediately said to him, first, I won't work with you if you're looking to sabotage anyone. I won't be a party to that. And when he promised me he wouldn't, I said, okay, I'll work with you. I was able to, not get him to, do anything to her car, of course, but B, take the high road. And I kept explaining to him that as he's going through this divorce, he's an example to their 11-year-old son. And, you can't change what has happened. What you can only do is move forward in the best way possible, and always reminding yourself that your 11-year-old son is watching and listening to everything you do and say, especially from this point on. And so, his wife had worked so hard at this corporation. She worked herself up the chain, and he had ground to actually get her fired. He was having an affair with a subordinate. And I said to him, if you do that, you are setting this example to your son that it's okay to get even and to be vengeful and be spiteful. And do you really want your son to do that? And when he sat on it in that space and thought about it, he realized he's not going to gain anything, right? He's only going to come from a place that sometimes you can never come back from. So ultimately, he did not act on it. And I actually thought for the first 6 months, this was going to be my biggest challenge, the biggest challenge I've ever had with a client. He was so riddled with anger. But I'm here to tell you, Susie, fast forward a year later after working together, he has dinner with his former wife and their 12-year-old son once a month. They go out to dinner or a lunch, the three of them, because I said to him, the more you extend the olive branch, the more your son will see that it's okay, that if someone hurts you, you don't have to become vengeful, spiteful. You can still move on and continue to extend the olive branch in the process.
That's a cool story. And I know there might be some people listening thinking, oh, I couldn't do that, but you don't know what you can do. I was surprised what I was able to do. And you don't have to become best mates, but you can find ways to continue a healthy co-parenting relationship. I love the work that you're doing, and I hope to speak about it with you soon. Thank you so much for coming and sharing that on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Susie.
And we're going to move straight in now to our healing. I'm going to introduce you to Bonnie. And Bonnie, hello.
Hello, how are you? Thank you very much, Susie, for inviting me on your show. I'm very delighted. And honored to be
Great tattoos. My daughter would love your tattoos. She's a tats girl. And before we let you loose on everyone for the next few minutes, just give everyone a little bit of an idea of what we're going to be doing.
We're going to be engaging in a practice. I have a background as a mindfulness coach, and I facilitate mindfulness-based stress reduction programs for men and families who are experiencing or needing supportive resources to support their mental health and emotional well-being. And this practice today is really about supporting our capacity to reconnect with ourselves and others mindfully with the intention of really building positive and healthy relationships with those that are really important in our lives, whether they are relationships from our past or our present and potentially even our future. So it's really important for us to focus on developing skills that support our emotional and social intelligence and our awareness, as well as our mindful communication skills relative to what is supportive for building these healthy, positive relationships with these human beings, because we are social creatures. And mindfulness is also a very personal and interpersonal practice. And so when we incorporate awareness tools and practices around compassion, these things support and build our capacity relative to our interpersonal skills and those supportive, positive relationships with other human beings in our life. So today's practice, yeah. So it's really going to take us into a practice around perspective taking and cultivating compassion for self and others, which really nurtures and fosters feelings of connectedness.
So it's going to be a meditation. Is that right?
Yes, it will be a guided meditation.
I love those. Right, I'm going to let you loose. Thanks so much, Bonnie.
Thank you for having me. All right, I invite everybody today to come to a comfortable but alert seated position, becoming aware of your body and the points of contact underneath your sit bones, on the surface that you're seated on, or your feet as they're grounded and planted into the earth. And I invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you right now, or for you to soften your gaze and to invite an unfocused downward gaze as we move forward into this practice today. And take a couple of deep, intentional breaths as you bring awareness to intention around fostering and building healthy and positive relationships with others. Now bring to mind and hold in awareness a friend or someone you feel loving kindness towards. And saying silently after me, this person has a body and a mind just like me. This person has feelings and emotions and thoughts just like me. This person has in his or her life experienced physical and emotional pain and suffering just like me. This person has at some point been sad, disappointed, angry, or hurt just like me. This person is learning about life and themselves just like me. And this person wants friendship just like me. because this person is a fellow human being, just like me. And taking a breath, a deep breath, and notice how you feel about this person that you have brought to mind. Bringing to mind and holding in your awareness an ex-partner or spouse, someone whom you have shared a life with, and saying silently after me, this person has a body and a mind, just like me. This person has feelings, emotions, and thoughts, just like me. This person has in his or her life experienced physical and emotional pain and suffering, just like me. And this person at some point has been sad, disappointed, angry, or hurt, just like me. This person is learning about life and themselves, just like me. This person wants a positive, healthy relationship, just like me. Because this person is a fellow human being, just like me. And taking a deep cleansing breath, and notice how you feel about this person. Bringing to mind and holding in your awareness an acquaintance of someone neutral that you know but don't really know. And saying silently after me, this person has a body and a mind, just like me. This person has feelings, emotions, and thoughts, just like me. This person has in his or her life experienced physical and emotional pain and suffering, just like me. This person has at some point been sad, disappointed, angry, or hurt, just like me. And this person is learning about life and themselves, just like me. This person wants friendship, just like me. And because this person is a fellow human being, just like me, and take a deep cleansing breath and notice how you feel about this person. And in the next moments, I invite you to bring your attention back to the breath and back to the body breathing and body sensations. And in these next few moments forward, bring your awareness and presence back to the space and place around you at the sound of the bell.
Thank you, Bonnie. And we're going to say now, I've got to shoot off to do the group chat in the Secret Divorce group for our meetup. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined us today, and anyone who's watching this on replay. Feel free to make comments, make suggestions for future shows. I'm going to have a little bit of break for the next few months and then come back fresh in the autumn. So, in the war of divorce, on the battlefield of family separation, make sure you use peace as your weapon of choice.